95.7 The Game breaking news.
Deshaun Watson will indeed not play this weekend against the San Francisco 49ers. This, according to Josina Anderson, who has just broken the news. 49ers at 5-0 will be going against P.J. Walker in this game coming up Sunday at 10 a.m.
Well, there you go. There you have it. Big news, big-time news. And so Deshaun Watson, as expected for the most part, not going to play. And I wonder, Mark, about the willingness of Deshaun Watson going forward to be interested in actually playing football.
Well, that's an interesting take that you've now brought up, that you brought up a couple times. And I'm curious as to where it comes from. I will share this with you. That same off-air conversation I had with the producer in Cleveland who sort of insinuated, hey, this looks like P.J. Walker because the Browns have their quarterback who's starting, talked to the media on Friday, and we went to his locker, and P.J.'s like, I'll talk to you tomorrow. So that felt like he's going to be the starter, and we know the Browns, the Browns know. The team knows ahead of time. One thing he said was, and I didn't really know that this would be a dynamic, he goes, I really think that Deshaun owes it to his teammates to get out front of this and explain what's going on. And I'm like, well, that's not a normal deal when there's an injury in the NFL. If you're hurt, you're hurt. But, different injuries take sort of a different form, and when it's the key position on the field, that obviously takes a little bit of a different form as well. So I'm interested to know why you feel that way, because there was the insinuation that Deshaun is leaving his teammates high and dry. That's one thing. To take it to he doesn't really want to play football. Do you mean this week, or do you mean in general?
I mean in general. And, I mean, this week is obviously a part of it, but you've got a shoulder injury that is a nagging shoulder injury, and it's been described as a bruise. So I don't know how deep the bruise is. It's a bone bruise. If it's a dislocated shoulder, if it's a fractured clavicle, which is the collarbone, if it's a torn labrum, which I've had, if it's an injury that actually puts you on IR and knocks you out for a long period of time, we get a better idea of exactly what the return to play protocol would be. But he's got a bruised shoulder, and we also know that he has a guaranteed contract.
Yep.
And we also know that he's coming off of a year and a half of the last 2 years where he didn't play football. He missed a whole year because he basically told Houston, I don't want to play football here anymore. He held out. He wanted a new deal, and he didn't play football. And then he got into some off-field trouble that turned out to not be technically legal trouble that would put him behind bars, but it cost him 11 games. So he missed a year and a half of football, during which time he got the most unbelievable contract in the history of the NFL in terms of raw guaranteed money. So does he really want to play football? I wonder.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm as you're talking, I'm searching around for stories on this to sort of get the Cleveland vibe. And Cleveland.com published a story, literally, 6:39 p.m. Eastern time. It published a story 13 minutes ago.
Okay.
Where Alex Van Pelt, the OC for
AVP.
Cleveland, has, you know me.
Thank you.
Had to come out and publicly defend Deshaun Watson and other players on the team, publicly stating that Browns players were not mad at Deshaun Watson when he could not start against the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's an odd story, an odd reaction.
Right. Oh, we're not mad.
Like, why would that question even be asked?
Because he's not.
Like when Brandon Ayuk missed a game, hey, are you mad at him? Are you upset with Brandon because he wouldn't go out there when Debo was used as a decoy? Is anybody upset with Debo? Obviously, the insinuation is that this injury is not real. Or
not severe.
Not severe enough.
Right. And that's kind of where I sit. And as I read the tea leaves, and you've got a quarterback who, coming off a bye week, he's got a bruised shoulder. And yes, bruised shoulder. I don't know how severe the shoulder is and how bad the injury is, and I'm not going to ever try to speculate in terms of should he or shouldn't he. Is he tough? Is he not tough? It's not up to me to decide. I look at a player who has a guaranteed deal for a team that, may or may not be sold out to win the whole thing this year. And if he doesn't want to go out there and compete, that to me is a curiosity.
Gosh, the whole thing. You know what goes through my head also here is kind of a vibe of like how good we have it. You know what I mean? Like we've been sitting here for 6 months going, well, small sample size. Can he do it? Boy, the Trey Lance thing, that didn't go well. They're not going to trade him, are they? Oh, they are. And then we've got this national screaming debate for a little while, which is now dying down. But this screaming debate over, is he good? Is he kind of good? Is he good because of someone else? Man, what a luxury. This is the debate we're having in San Francisco?
Right.
Is he good or is he kind of good or is he good because of someone else? Or how about choice 4? Who cares? They're amazing.
He's good.
Look at the quarterback situations around the league and what we're talking about. You know what I mean? And, oh, by the way, Orlovsky makes a public statement today that his comment about Mac Jones would be doing the same thing in San Francisco if he was there, he definitely reeled it back a little bit.
Yeah.
He made the comment, he goes, I do think there are about 7 or 8 QBs in the league who would be putting up similar numbers with the 49ers if they were there. That, to me, is a much more fair statement to make. If you want to say that Mahomes and Allen and Herbert and Trevor Lawrence and Jalen Hurts and maybe a couple more guys, Tua, you want to say those guys would be doing similar things to Brock Purdy if they were here? All right, I'll listen to that, but that's not what he said. He said Mac Jones would be doing the same thing. This is the debate we're having in San Francisco, and the 7 or 8 guys I just brought up, they're literally the only 7 or 8 other healthy situations in the NFL. How many of them are there? How many teams are pumped with their QB right now?
Man, you could go through and Miami pumped, Buffalo's pumped.
Yep.
The Jets and the Patriots aren't. The Steelers, I don't think that they're...
That's a no.
That's a lowercase p for pumped because I think that they feel better about their quarterback than you do. But if we're talking about pumped, like Hans and Franz.
That's going to be a no from me, dog. They felt good about him before the season started, and then they lost 30-7.
First place Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm going to say they're not pumped. Baltimore's pumped.
Cincinnati's pumped.
We're at 4 pumps.
Okay.
Jacksonville's pumped. We're at 5.
Houston's pumped.
I'm going to give you 6.
Yeah.
Tannehill and Tennessee, no. Kansas City and the Chargers are pumped.
Okay.
We're at 8.
That's 8. Right.
I'm not going to give you Jimmy G, even though gutsy little win for them.
Definitely
and
not.
Russell Wilson, that's going to be a no from me, Russ.
AFC is 8. I agree with you.
Philly, they're pumped. I'm not even going to give you Dak.
No, hell no.
Hell
no.
I mean.
And the Giants in Washington, that's a no.
Danny Dimes is not, they're not pumped, but he's paid. There's a difference between pumped and paid.
And Detroit, as excited as they are.
They're pumped about Jared Goff.
I guess, but almost kind of because they're Detroit. Like, he's good. It's nothing against Jared. I love the guy.
He's playing great. They're 4-1. They are pumped.
But do they feel like that's the guy long term is my question.
I think they do.
Okay, then great.
I think they do because they're doing something that they haven't done in, I'd have to Google it, but it's probably 50 or 60 years.
By the way, I'm going to tell you right now, if you put Jared Goff on your pumped list,
you got to Google it.
The rest of the NFC is Brock, period. End of conversation.
Well, we're at 10 with Jared, and I'm not giving you Jordan, Justin, or Kirk.
Nope.
I mean, Minnesota would be pumped about Kirk, but he's in a last year of his deal, and he's leaving.
They're going to let him go. NFC South is 4 no's.
Tampa's not pumped about Baker Mayfield, but you need to put some respect on his name.
I don't need to do anything.
Because he's playing good football.
He's playing all right.
He's playing great. They're in first place.
He's fine.
If the season ended today.
Oh, God.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
all right.
Ritter's a no. Derek Carr, sorry. And Bryce Young. I feel for you. Shaka Khan.
I mean, we're 5 weeks in, and it already feels like there's a drumbeat there that the owner is the one who came in and made the pick.
Yeah.
And they're looking around the league going, oh, C.J. Stroud looks kind of nice. And I know Anthony Richardson's hurt, but
oh, my God.
Boy, like even half of a game of Anthony right now is better than a full game of Bryce.
What's Bryce Young? Is he like 6 foot? Because a 6 foot tall quarterback cannot win in this league.
I don't know.
Unless you're Brock Purdy.
I was going to say, I don't know that he's any shorter than Brock
Right.
Purdy. But and in the NFC West,
Niners are pumped, and
that's it.
Well, I mean, Geno, it's a
you're not
lowercase
pumped.
p.
Yeah,
he's
you're
on
not
a
pumped.
short deal. Stafford's on his way out, and Josh
11.
Dobbs. You know what? Josh Dobbs might
not-
be the one to run Calamari out of town.
But he's not even the QB. Yeah, that's
11. 11 teams
the
are
answer's
pumped.
11.
Yeah, 8 in the AFC, 3 in the NFC, which I think speaks to why the Super Bowl or bust conversation can really take hold, because if you look at pumped in the NFC, you've got Jalen, Jared, and Brock, and Jared might be a little bit of a stretch, and beyond that, you get to, is Dak the 4th best quarterback in the NFC? And if so, we're in a spot where the NFC is a lot weaker than the AFC quarterback-wise.
I never know if height and weight are true with athletes, but
You got to go to the combine.
I went to Wikipedia,
Okay.
not the combine.
Wiki.
They got Bryce Young at 5'10", and Brock Purdy at 6'1".
Brock Purdy is officially 6 foot and 5/8.
Yeah.
So they rounded him up
By
for
the
Wiki.
way, he's not as short as he looks. He looks that way because he's on a football field standing next to Trent Williams. He's short, I guess, for an NFL QB, but that, and I know right now there is Dallas started to knock balls down a little bit. Is that going to be a thing?
Couple of them Hankins.
I don't think it's going to be a thing, and it's not. Sure, you'd love him to be an inch or two taller, but he's not. It's fine. It's totally fine.
And sneaky thick, by the way. He's like 220, listed at 220. Yeah.
What
I think
is
they
he
list him at
listed
220, but
Let's see
he's
what he's listed at.
sneaky thick, Mark, is what he is.
I think you're looking a little too close to his body. That got uncomfortable. Totally. Like, why are you calling him those things? I can't find his weight. I might need to go to Football Reference.
You need to go to Weightopedia. They have everyone's weight on Weightopedia. Yeah.
He is 6'1", 220.
Yeah.
It says.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's with the backpack on. I don't know. But anyway, I think that's another way for us to look at the entire quarterback situation, which is to say,
Are you pumped or aren't you pumped?
You are one of 11 teams, a third of the league,
Right.
That's happy with this. All right. First of all, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM at HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Willard and Dibs with you, and talking things out, the breaking news that Deshaun Watson is not going to play. And also we can share with you that David Lombardi will join us coming up here in just about 15 minutes, maybe a little bit less, and we'll get some reaction on the Deshaun thing.
Yeah.
And what's going on at Niners camp. And this is one thing. I'm almost uncomfortable with the lack of adversity so far. Eli Mitchell back at practice today, like the 49ers are just like as healthy as can be.
Pretty much,
I mean,
right?
I know there's Aaron Banks and there's stuff.
But even that turned out to not be a biceps. It turned out to be a shoulder. And so, the day-to-day as opposed to 6 to 8 weeks or gone for the year. And, we can knock on wood in terms of the injuries they haven't yet sustained, which is good. You had Ayuk who missed a game, and you had Debo who played but shouldn't really have played. I mean, not shouldn't have, but he was limited and all the rest of it. They've been skating pretty good right now injury-wise.
Remember the conversation we had a few weeks ago about how certain players in the league move the line?
Yeah.
And obviously quarterbacks, move it the most. But Christian McCaffrey was the number one non-quarterback line mover in the whole league.
Yeah.
Well, you and I had an inkling. We talked about it all day yesterday that Deshaun was not going to play in this football game. And the line had started at about 3.5. And it had been inching up, not because of Deshaun, just because it was getting bet up.
Well, Sunday night after that beat down,
Totally.
And we got to work on Monday morning, and I think it was at 5 or 5.5.
Right. And then it went to 6. That's when I grabbed it, by the way.
Yeah.
And then it went to 7, which felt like, there are people who think Deshaun might be out. Well, now he's out. Josina hits a tweet 20 minutes ago. What do you think the line is at now. Are you looking at it?
No, I'm looking at my ticket that I bet on the pleaser, as I told you, where you bet a teaser, but you give the 6 instead of getting the 6. And I got it at Niners minus 13, which means when I bet my pleaser, it was at 7, and that was yesterday.
Okay.
I bet that yesterday at about this time. So I'm going to guess that it went from 7 to probably 8 and a hook.
Okay. The San Francisco 49ers, this is just up to the minute, and it's only been 20 minutes since this news became official.
Josina moves the line.
So it is probably or potentially going to do even more. But up to the minute, the 49ers are now a 9.5-point favorite over the Cleveland Browns because of this news that P.J. Walker is now going to start at quarterback. I'm reminded of something that Larry Krueger tweeted earlier today, which is maybe going to get people going a little bit. And, in fact, I saw some people on Twitter sort of accusing him of trying to get people going with what he was sending out. But do you remember for years that it was like the Warriors could win 3 or 4 titles, but people would be like, isn't it amazing? Every time they get to the playoffs, the other team's best player gets hurt.
Yeah.
You lucky sons of guns going out there, and it happens for you every time. Well, listen to what Krueger wrote earlier today. He goes, I'm not saying that it's the reason the Niners are undefeated, but it's worth noting. Check it out. Played the Rams, no Cooper Kupp. Played the Giants, no Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
He says they played the Cardinals without Kyler Murray. I'm
Sure.
like, well, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. They played the Cowboys, no Trayvon Diggs. They're about to play the Browns without Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson. And then they will play the Minnesota Vikings without Justin Jefferson.
Jeez. Those lucky ducks with a D.
I think they're fake. I don't think the Niners are actually that good.
No. And I think he's on to something.
Well, no, look.
If Dallas had Diggs, that he's worth 33 points in the spread, Mark.
It would have been.
Larry, you're right.
It would have been 42-11.
No, it would have been 43-42 Dallas.
Listen, I don't think he's saying that. It is worth noting.
This
it's
is
interesting.
I'm not just saying, but saying tweet.
Well, the Cardinals one, that's ridiculous. He goes, they're playing the Cardinals without Kyler Murray and Budda Baker. Yeah, whatever.
And they didn't have Kurt Warner or Larry Fitzgerald or Anquan Bolden either.
No, but listen, Kupp, Barkley, Diggs, Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, Justin Jefferson, these are the best players on their schedule, and they're not playing.
Right.
So it's interesting. I'm not saying there's anything to it. I think if all of those players had played, you want to know what I think the Niners' record would be? 5-0.
Thank you.
5-0.
Call my message phone. 5-0.
That's what I think. But, yeah, things have gone their way so far this year. That can be true, too.
It can be, but when you go out and you beat these teams into submission, then I don't think you can even cite that in any real way. And the Rams have a guy who is like Diet Cup in Puka Nacua. So, I mean, you had Puka Nacua do Cooper Kupp things in that game, and you still were able to beat them by 7, because Sean McVegas got that cheap late 3. But I don't think you can look at any of these wins and think, well, if ... then they might have lost, because these are all 5 straight-up beatdowns.
The Puka Nacua thing is honestly, it is one of the most under-discussed deals I've ever seen in the history of sports. Like, we had a hard time buying that Brock Purdy was good, and so that took a while. Do you know what Puka Nacua's stats are this year? We're 5 games into the year.
He's got to have 50 catches.
He's got 46 catches.
Okay.
What? No one had ever heard of him. Nobody knew who Puka Nacua is. 46 balls for 572 yards. He's on pace for almost 2K. And, how many catches?
He's on pace for about $160.
160.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Puka Nacua?
He's actually on pace for 180 catches. If he's got 46 through 5.
5th round pick.
Yeah.
5th round rookie.
And it
It's
just
insanity.
well, it goes to show a couple things. One, the draft is a crapshoot, and two, the receiver stats that we all glommed onto in terms of like what's a good season and what's not. He has 46 catches, and you said for how many yards?
572 yards in 5 games.
Yeah. And
His worst game, yardage-wise, was last week against the Eagles with Kupp on the roster.
Yeah.
And he got 71 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. It just
7 balls for
it's a
71.
whole new NFL
It's his
where
worst game.
We don't really worry about running it. And I know they've got Kyron Williams as their running back, but he's more of a third receiver than he is a true running back. So it's the new NFL where we throw it almost every down if we have to.
63 targets.
For Puka. Yeah. Wow.
5th-round kid out of BYU named Puka. He's going to break every record in the history of ever if this
And a lot of
keeps
those
up.
records are Cooper Kupp's records.
Well, no joke. And by the way, the Kupp thing, I mean, in theory, this will get muted a little bit because Kupp is back, and if he stays healthy, that's going to spread it out a lot more. But how many targets did he have with Kupp gone? 11. That's still a lot.
Yeah.
Crazy numbers. So anyway, that was a quick aside. But the larger point, yeah, the 49ers are not only really good, they have had some really good breaks go their way, and they've had a lot of players on their schedule who have missed time in front of them, and they have not had a lot of their own players miss time. And so when we look at the inevitable adversity that comes to the Niners, I do feel like it's that. It has to be that. Like nobody rolls through 17 games without a pretty big injury or two. It just doesn't happen.
Right. And that's the beauty of 17 games, though, is that if you do get an injury and it's 4 to 6 weeks, you have time for him to get healthy on the back end of it. And that's what we saw in the Arena League, and they played 18 games, and we had some SaberCats get hurt, and then, you'd be hurt for 6 to 8 weeks, and you'd realize, okay, come back in 8 weeks, and you still got 4 more games plus the playoffs on the back end.